Let's talk apologetics. I want to dive a little deeper into some of the texts that I mentioned yesterday in my video, specifically the Greek Septuagint, and what exactly is that? I did say that I prefer to utilize that when I'm looking at the Old Testament, especially when I'm trying to study, look at how the New Testament authors reference or quote or allude to a passage in the Old Testament. Look at the Greek Septuagint and try to just understand what text is better. Is the Hebrew better or is the Greek Septuagint better? So I just want to also just show some passages, really just specifically one passage in particular, quoting the Old Testament in the book of Psalms, chapter 40. I think when you really look at both the Septuagint Greek translation and the Hebrew Masoretic text translations, you will see that the Greek is the better translation to use. So again, that's why I use it. I don't think it's perfect, but I do prefer it because of the overwhelming evidence of what it is and how the New Testament authors used it in their referencing and quoting of the Old Testament. And just to go over a quick, brief history about the Greek Septuagint, it was created by an Egyptian king named Ptolemy. He commissioned a translation of the Hebrew Bible for his library in Alexandria. He took 72 translators from Jerusalem. They were subsequently sent to the island of Pharos to translate the Torah into Greek somewhere around 250 BC, which is 250 years before the first century, well before the writings of the New Testament. So the New Testament authors would have had access to this Greek manuscript, which we call the Greek Septuagint, so that they could use those manuscripts when they reference and quote the Old Testament. And now I want us to take a quick look at Hebrews chapter 10, verses 5 and 6. This is a passage where the author is quoting the Old Testament, specifically Psalms 40. And so we're going to look at how he utilizes that Old Testament passage. So he says, consequently, when Christ came into the world, he said, sacrifices and offerings you have not desired, but a body you have prepared for me. In burnt offerings and in sin offerings you have taken no pleasure. Again, that is Hebrews 10, quoting Psalms 40. Now to look at Psalms 40, specifically verse 6. This is where the author of Hebrews in chapter 10 is actually quoting from. It says in verse 6, in sacrifice and offering you have not delighted, but you have given me an open ear. Burnt offering and sin offering you have not required. So this is actually from the Hebrew Masoretic text. This is from the ESV Bible, but the ESV Bible does utilize the Masoretic text as its underlying translation of the Hebrew Old Testament. Now, to really dive into the difference here between the Greek Septuagint and the Hebrew Masoretic text, I want us to take a look at when in Hebrews chapter 10, where it is specifically mentioning, but a body have you prepared for me. So really look at that particular phrase in Hebrews and compare that to what we find in Psalms 40, verse 6, in the Masoretic text. Now, when we go back to Psalms 40, verse 6, we don't see this part about a body you have prepared for me. We see this phrase, but you have given me an open ear. So the question is, why does the author in the book of Hebrews say, when he's quoting Psalms 40, verse 6, he doesn't say, but you have given me an open ear. He says, but a body you have prepared for me. The problem is he is not quoting the Hebrew Masoretic text. He's quoting the Greek Septuagint. Now, just to confirm all this, we go to the Brenton, which is a translation of the Greek Septuagint. It says in Psalms 40, verse 6, where that phrase, but my ear you've opened, we can see it says, but a body hast thou prepared me, which is exactly what the author in Hebrews chapter 10 says that's what that text actually is saying. So again, Psalms 40, verse 6 in the Greek says, but a body hast thou prepared me. So after looking at Hebrews chapter 10 verses 5 and 6 and looking at Psalms 40 verse 6, we can see that the author of Hebrews is not referencing or quoting the Hebrew Masoretic text. He's actually quoting from the Greek Septuagint, and that is why I do prefer the Greek Septuagint over the Hebrew Masoretic text when I am diving deeper into my studies. It's not that the Hebrew Masoretic text is necessarily bad in and of itself. It's just if you want to see exactly what the authors of the New Testament are utilizing for their quotes and references, I want to go to the Greek Septuagint because that is primarily what they are using. So again, the Greek Septuagint is what I'm using. I hope you guys like this video, and I hope this encourages you to just dive a little deeper into your own studies and not just read one Bible translation that utilizes one Hebrew or one Greek. You have to look at all of it. So just dive deeper to help so that we can better equip ourselves to defend the faith and be strong in and out of season.